There are moments in life that split everything into two clean halves, the before and the after. Before you knew, after you couldn't unknow. And in most cases, those moments don't announce themselves with bells or sirens. They arrive quietly, in the middle of the night, in the soft glow of a phone screen, in the space between two words that should have been ordinary, wrong number, but somehow felt like the ground cracking open beneath your feet. It was 11:47 at night. Not midnight, not noon. 11:47, that strange, restless hour when the world feels suspended between one day and the next. We were in bed. I was drifting in and out of sleep, that comfortable half-consciousness where your thoughts blur at the edges and everything feels soft and safe. And next to me was Lauren, my wife, the woman I had chosen. The woman I had built my life around, piece by piece, the way you lay a foundation, carefully, intentionally, with the full belief that it will hold. Her phone lit up on the nightstand, and she grabbed it so fast, with such swift, practiced certainty, that for a moment I thought I had imagined it. It was as if she had been lying there awake in the dark, waiting. The phone barely finished its first ring before it was in her hand, pressed to her ear. "Hello," she whispered, and her voice, it wasn't groggy. It wasn't the scratchy, disoriented voice of someone pulled from sleep. It was quiet, soft, almost tender, the voice of someone fully present. I kept my eyes half closed, my breathing slow and even. I listened. From across the pillow, I could hear a voice on the other end of the line. A man's voice. Muffled, yes. Indistinct, yes, but unmistakably male and unmistakably comfortable, the tone of a person who calls a number at midnight and expects to be welcomed. Then she said it, two words. "Wrong number," quickly, cleanly. The way you say something you've practiced, or perhaps something so effortless it no longer needs practice. She hung up, placed the phone face down on the nightstand, and slid back beneath the covers with the ease of someone who had done nothing at all. I lay in the dark. I didn't move. I stared up at the ceiling and listened to the sound of her breathing, the way it slowed and steadied itself into the rhythm of sleep, or the performance of sleep. And I felt something in my chest that I couldn't quite name. Not anger, not panic, something quieter and in many ways far more unsettling, a knowing. A small, cold, very certain knowing that something was wrong. I didn't say a word. I closed my eyes, but I did not sleep. And if you want to know what I discovered the following morning, and how a single midnight phone call eventually led me into a courtroom, where a folder of evidence made my wife's attorney go visibly pale, then stay with me. Because what I found wasn't just a name or a number. It was a pattern. Months of deception, carefully woven into the ordinary fabric of our life. And as any builder will tell you, patterns don't lie. If this is your first time here on the channel, welcome. Please hit that subscribe button and join our community of listeners who believe in real stories, real emotions, and the kind of truth that changes everything. You are going to want to stay for this one. Part 1 is who we were. My name is Ryan Mitchell. I am 38 years old and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work as a project manager for a commercial construction company, the kind of job where you show up before sunrise, pull on steel-toed boots, toss a hard hat in the back of your truck, and spend your days solving problems that most people never think about. Making sure buildings rise on schedule, making sure budgets hold. Making sure everything is done right, because in construction, shortcuts have consequences. The floors, the walls, the beams, everything has to be solid, or eventually it fails. I was good at my job. I understood how to build things that lasted. What I never expected, not even once in 38 years of living, was that I would have to use those same analytical instincts, that same methodical patience, to investigate my own marriage. Lauren and I met 9 years ago at a backyard barbecue hosted by a mutual friend. It was a warm Saturday afternoon, the kind of day where everything feels a little slower and a little brighter than usual. She was a dental hygienist, funny in a dry, understated way that sneaked up on you, warm in a way that felt entirely genuine. She was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday without being reminded, who showed up to every gathering with more food than was necessary, who made people feel noticed. I was drawn to her almost immediately, and I think she knew it. We dated for 2 years. We got married in a small ceremony, surrounded by people who loved us. We bought a house together in a quiet, leafy neighborhood. The kind of place with sidewalks and good schools and neighbors who wave from their driveways. We didn't have children yet, but we talked about it with the easy confidence of people who believe the future is full of good things. Someday, Lauren would say, and she would smile, and I would smile back, and it would feel like a promise. I believed her. I believed a great many things in those early years. For the first 6 years, our life together was good, genuinely, solidly good. We had our routines, the quiet scaffolding of a shared life. I left for work at 6:30 every morning. She followed at 8, heading to the dental office where she'd worked for years. During the day, we'd send each other small, ordinary messages. How's your day going? What do you want for dinner tonight? Don't forget to pick up milk. Nothing poetic, nothing dramatic. Just the small, steady thread of two people who were paying attention to each other. In the evenings, we cooked together or curled up on the sofa to watch television. On weekends, we worked on the house, that beautiful, ongoing project of turning a structure into a home. I built a deck in the backyard, measuring and cutting and hammering with the kind of satisfaction that only comes from making something real with your own hands. Lauren planted a garden along the south fence, learning as she went, talking to the tomato plants when she thought I wasn't listening. We painted the guest bedroom together one rainy Saturday, laughing when I ended up wearing more of the color than the walls did. It felt solid. It felt right. It felt like the beginning of something that would only grow stronger. But somewhere around year 7, things began to shift, slowly at first, subtly, the way a hairline crack can run through concrete for months before anyone notices it. She stopped asking about my day. It was such a small thing that I barely registered it at first, just the absence of a question I had grown used to. She started staying later at the office, a few nights a week, then more. She was given a second phone for work. The dental practice, she explained, wanted hygienists to have a dedicated line for patient callbacks, a reasonable policy, perfectly logical. Except that she guarded that second phone with an intensity that struck me as disproportionate, keeping it tucked into her bag or her pocket, face down, screen always dark when I was nearby. The late nights became a regular occurrence about 8 months before everything came undone. Dr. Morrison needs my help getting the new patient onboarding system running, she would say, slipping her coat on at 7 in the evening. I'll be home by 9. 9 o'clock became 10. 10 became 11. I would text her, you okay? She would reply, yeah, just really busy. Don't wait up. I took her at her word. She had always been dedicated, always been the kind of person who gave everything to whatever she was committed to. It was one of the qualities I had loved about her. But her phone habits had quietly, completely changed. Where once her phone lived casually on the kitchen counter or the coffee table, now it was always on her person, always face down, always on silent. If I walked into a room while she was texting, she would close the app in a single, practiced motion. Work stuff, she'd say, not quite meeting my eyes. HIPAA, I can't leave patient information visible. Logical, reasonable, except that my gut had started to whisper otherwise. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I was overthinking it. And I kept telling myself that right up until 11:47 on a Tuesday night. Part 2, the phone call. We had just finished watching a television show. Nothing special, one of those evening programs we'd watch together out of habit more than genuine interest. I was drifting comfortably towards sleep when Lauren's phone lit up on the nightstand. 11:47 p.m. She reached for it before the first ring had even finished. Hello, she said, her voice low and soft, not sleepy, not startled, soft. I opened my eyes just a fraction. In the pale light that crept in from the hallway, I could see her silhouette sitting up slightly, phone pressed to her ear. And from across the pillow, I heard it. A man's voice. I couldn't make out his words, but I could hear the tone, relaxed, unhurried, familiar. The voice of a person entirely comfortable with who had answered. Then, wrong number. Quick, certain. No pause, no hesitation. She hung up, placed the phone face down, and slid back under the covers in one smooth, practiced motion. Who was that? I asked, keeping my voice neutral, keeping my breathing steady. I don't know, wrong number. At midnight. Yeah, a small, casual yawn. Weird, right? Go back to sleep, babe. I said nothing more. I lay perfectly still in the darkness, listening to her breathing slow and deepen beside me. And I knew. I couldn't have told you exactly what I knew or how I knew it, but somewhere deep in my chest, in that quiet place where logic and instinct converge, I knew that something was terribly, fundamentally wrong. The next morning, I waited. I listened for the sound of the shower running, for the hiss of water behind the bathroom door. Then I got out of bed, walked to the nightstand, and picked up her phone. No passcode. She had never used one. She had always said she had nothing to hide. I opened the call log. There it was, 11:47 p.m., a number I had never seen, no name attached, just digits. I grabbed my own phone, walked through the kitchen, out the side door into the garage, and pulled the door shut behind me. My hands were trembling. I dialed the number. One ringed, two rings, and then a man's voice, warm, easy, completely unsuspecting. Hey, baby, you forget something. The world stopped. Not hello, not who is this. Not a cautious, unfamiliar yes. He said, hey, baby, the way you speak to someone you know intimately. The way you answer when you recognize the number before you've even fully woken up. I couldn't breathe. I hung up. I stood there in my own garage, surrounded by the tools I had used to build our deck, to fix our fence, to paint our walls, to make a house into a home. And I felt the floor of my world tilt beneath me. I didn't confront her, not yet. Something in me, some steady, methodical, construction manager part of me, understood that confrontation without preparation was a mistake I couldn't afford. If I walked back into that house and accused her outright, she would have every opportunity to cover her tracks, to delete messages, to establish a story, to control the narrative. No, if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I needed the truth, all of it, documented and irrefutable. I went to work. I sat through meetings, reviewed blueprints, signed off on orders, nodded at the right times during the right conversations. I was on autopilot, going through every motion while my mind remained stuck on two words. Hey, baby. Not a stranger's greeting, not a wrong number, not even close. Have you ever had that moment where something small, a look, a word, a fraction of a second, told you everything you weren't yet ready to know? If you have, leave a comment below. You are not alone, and what you felt was real. Like this video if you understand that feeling, and please share it with someone who might need to hear this story. Part 3, Building the Case. At lunch that day, I sat in my truck in the parking lot with the engine off and my phone in my hand. I could call the number again, I thought. I could demand to know who he was. I could go home and lay every question I was carrying directly at Lauren's feet. But I didn't, because I had seen enough projects fall apart to know that you do not act before you understand the full scope of what you are dealing with. That evening, I watched Lauren closely, not in an obvious way, but with the quiet, careful attention of someone who has finally started paying the right kind of attention. She was on her phone more than usual. I could see the small smile that crossed her face when something on the screen pleased her. I watched her type quickly, then pause, then delete, then retype. She was choosing her words carefully with someone. Work, I asked. Yeah, she said, not glancing up. Dr. Morrison is completely disorganized with this scheduling rollout. I'm helping him sort it out. Dr. Morrison, her boss, mid-50s, married for decades, the proud grandfather of several small children. I had met him at the office holiday party a couple of years back. He was a decent, uncomplicated man who talked about his grandchildren with the kind of enthusiasm that left no room for much else. He was not the voice I had heard on that phone. I was certain of it. So who was? The next day, I reached out to my friend Jake. We had been close since college, the kind of friendship built on late nights and shared history and complete mutual trust. Jake worked in it. He was the person you called when you needed a deleted file recovered, when you needed to understand something technical that most people didn't want to know existed. I met him after work for a beer and told him everything. The late nights, the second phone, the call at 11:47. The voice on the other end. Jake's expression went serious and still. Man, he said quietly, I'm really sorry. I need to know who he is, I told him. Did you try a reverse lookup? Yeah, nothing. The number isn't connected to any public record. He thought for a moment. Give me the number, I'll see what I can find. I texted it to him right then and there. 2 days later, he called me back. Got a name, he said. My heart stopped completely. Who? Trevor Hastings, 34 years old, works at a marketing firm. In downtown Charlotte, single, lives in South Park. I wrote it down on the back of an old receipt. Trevor Hastings, a name I had never heard in my life, a name that had apparently been a part of my marriage for God knows how long. How did you find him? I asked. Numbers registered to a business account. Took some digging, but it's him, that's your guy. I thanked Jake and hung up. Then I did what any person does in the modern age when they need to understand who someone is. I searched him. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Trevor Hastings, marketing director at a mid-sized downtown firm, CrossFit regular, proud owner of a golden retriever named Maverick. In his professional headshot, he was tan, polished, wearing the kind of tailored suit that announces a certain type of ambition. The kind of man who uses words like synergy and brand narrative as naturally as breathing. I scrolled through his social media carefully. Gym photos, restaurant brunches, pictures of Maverick running through a park. Ordinary enough. And then 3 months back, a photo taken at Fahrenheit, the rooftop restaurant in uptown Charlotte. A group shot, casual and sunlit. And in the background, partially out of frame, a woman with dark hair and a familiar silhouette. I zoomed in. It was Lauren. I sat there on my couch staring at that image for a long time. I thought back to that evening 3 months ago. Lauren had told me she was going to a team dinner, a work function, the kind of thing spouses don't attend. She had come home at 11 o'clock that night, carrying the warmth of wine and expensive perfume, and I had kissed her on the cheek and told her I was glad she had a nice time. And I had meant it. I had been glad for her. I took a screenshot. I saved it to a hidden folder on my phone, and then I kept digging. Part 4, The Evidence. Over the following week, I became someone I didn't entirely recognize. Methodical, quiet, watchful. I checked her location through Find My Friends, an app we had both signed up for years earlier, back when we were young and transparent and entirely convinced we had nothing to hide from each other. I noted the times when Lauren told me she was at the office, and her location showed South Park instead. I pulled up our cell phone bill and found the number she had been texting most consistently over the past 6 months. Trevor Hastings. Hundreds of messages. Hundreds becoming thousands, stretching. Back 6 months. I couldn't read the content. I didn't have access to the messages themselves without her phone in hand. But the sheer frequency of the contact told me everything I needed to know about what they meant to each other. I needed more. I drove to South Park one evening after work, found the address Jake had given me, and parked my truck across the street from a sleek, modern apartment building, glass and steel, the kind of building with valet parking and a lobby that looks like a hotel. I sat there in silence, watching. At 7:30 in the evening, Lauren's car pulled up to the entrance. My heart stopped for the second time in 1 week. She got out, paused in front of the building's glass exterior, checked her reflection for a moment, smoothed her hair, adjusted her jacket, and walked through the front doors. She was not carrying her work bag. She was carrying an overnight bag. I sat there for 2 hours. The city moved around me. I didn't. Just before 10 o'clock, I saw them through a window on the 4th floor. Lauren and a man I now recognized from the Instagram photos as Trevor. They were standing in what appeared to be a kitchen or living area, holding wine glasses, laughing at something. And then he reached for her, pulled her close, and she leaned into him with the ease of someone who had done it many, many times before. I took pictures, I took video, I checked the timestamps on every single file as I saved them. Then I drove home, parked in the garage, and sat in the dark until I heard Lauren's car pull in at 11:30. She came through the door bright-eyed, her cheeks flushed from the evening's cold air and the warmth of the wine. "Hey, babe," she said, kissing my cheek lightly. "Sorry I'm late. Staff meeting ran really long tonight." I looked at her. I really looked at her, this woman I had chosen, this woman I had built a decade of my life alongside, and I felt something quiet and devastating settle into the space behind my sternum. I did not know her. I had thought I did. I had built a life on the certainty that I did. But the woman standing in front of me, smiling softly and shrugging off her coat, was someone I had never actually met. "No problem," I said. "I'm just glad you're home." She smiled and went upstairs. I sat on the couch in the dark and stared at the photographs on my phone, and I started to plan. Part 5, The Lawyer. The next morning, I called Monica. Reeves, a colleague of mine, had gone through a difficult divorce 2 years earlier, and he had recommended Monica without hesitation, describing her as sharp, thorough, and absolutely unwilling to be outmaneuvered. I sat down in her office that afternoon and laid out everything. The midnight phone call, the name Jake had found, the Instagram photo, the location data, the pictures outside Trevor's apartment building, the video from the 4th floor window. Monica listened with complete stillness, making careful notes in a legal pad, her expression neutral and professional. When I finished, she looked up at me. "North Carolina is a no-fault state," she said, "but that doesn't mean evidence of adultery has no value. It does, specifically when it comes to alimony. If we can demonstrate that your wife has been unfaithful, the court can deny her any claim for spousal support." "Good," I said. "But we need more. We need her to either acknowledge the affair directly, or we need documented communication that establishes it clearly." "How do I get that?" She leaned back. "Do you have access to her phone, her laptop?" Not the phone, not without her knowing. She uses a laptop at home. She leaves it in the living room sometimes. If you can access it, her email, her synced messages, anything stored in the cloud, that could be exactly what we need. But, she emphasized carefully, do not let her discover that you are gathering evidence. If she suspects, she will delete everything. You have to be methodical. That weekend, Lauren went to brunch with friends. The moment her car turned the corner at the end of our street, I opened her laptop. No password, she had always trusted me. I opened her email and searched for the name Trevor. The results loaded in seconds, hundreds upon hundreds of messages, stretching back months. My hands were trembling as I began to scroll. I read fragments. Enough, more than enough. I can't wait to see you tonight. He's working late again. We have the whole evening to ourselves. I wish I could wake up next to you every single morning. Soon, I promise. I just need to figure out the right time to tell him. I stopped. I read that last line 3 times. I just need to figure out the right time to tell him. She had already made her decision. She was not confused. She was not uncertain. She was not caught between two worlds by accident. She had made a choice, and she was waiting for the moment to deliver it. She had been planning to leave me. I took screenshots of every significant exchange. I uploaded everything to a secure, private cloud account. Then I checked her text messages. She had them set to sync to the laptop. More of the same. Months of I love you and I miss you already and I can't wait to be with you properly. There were photographs too, nothing explicit, but deeply personal. The kind of intimacy you do not share with someone unless they mean something real to you. I saved it all. Then I closed the laptop precisely the way I had found it, stood up from the kitchen table, walked to the living room window, and stood there looking out at the garden Lauren had planted. The tomato plants from our first summer in the house were long gone, replaced with flowers I couldn't name. The garden she had made, in the yard of the home we had built together. 9 years, we had been married for 9 years, and for at least 6 months of that time she had been living a second life, parallel to ours in full color. Part 6, the final text. Monica told me to be patient. Let her feel safe, she said. The more comfortable she is, the more careless she'll become. That carelessness is your best asset. She was right, as she had been right about most things. I played the role of the oblivious husband for 2 more weeks. I kissed Lauren goodbye in the mornings. I asked about her day at dinner. I made her coffee the way she liked it and handed it to her without comment. Every evening, I added a new piece of documentation to the file Monica and I were building together. Then, 2 weeks into this quiet, controlled exercise in patience, Lauren left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went upstairs to shower. I picked it up. I opened the message thread with Trevor. The most recent exchange stopped my blood. Trevor, when are you going to tell him? Lauren, soon. I'm just waiting for the right moment. Trevor, he's going to be devastated. Lauren, I know, but we can't keep doing this forever. I want to be with you properly. I just need a little more time. Trevor, I want you here full-time, Lauren, every day. Lauren, I want that too. I photographed the screen. I sent it to myself. Then I carefully deleted any trace of the outgoing message from her phone, placed the device back exactly where it had been, and walked away. That night, I sat alone in the dark long after Lauren had gone to bed, and I made a decision. I was not going to wait for her to find the right moment. I was not going to give her the opportunity to choose her words, shape the story, and deliver it to me on her own terms. I was going to take back control of the one thing she had quietly, systematically taken from me, the truth. The following morning, I called Monica. I'm ready to file, I said. A brief pause. You have everything you need. More than enough. Good, I'll draft the papers. We'll have her served by the end of next week. I hung up and stood in the garage for a long moment, surrounded by the same tools and half-finished projects that had witnessed the worst week of my life. And I felt something I had not felt in months. Not happiness, not yet, but something cleaner than that. Something honest, a kind of stillness that comes when you stop pretending. Part 7, the service. The divorce papers were served on a Thursday afternoon. Monica had advised me to be at work when it happened, to keep things clean and uncomplicated, and to let the process move on its own without my presence giving Lauren any opportunity to redirect the conversation. So I was in a site meeting at 2 in the afternoon when my phone rang. Lauren's name on the screen. I let it ring once, then I answered. Ryan, her voice was shaking in a way I had never heard before. What is this? What is happening? Those are divorce papers, I said. My own voice was steady. I had spent enough time with the knowledge to have moved through the sharp edges of my grief. You've been served. Why? The word came out broken. How? I don't, Ryan, we need to talk about this. Please come home, please. There's nothing to discuss, Lauren. You can't just, Ryan, please. We can work through this. Whatever you think is happening. I'm not coming home, I said. I've checked into a hotel. I'll be there until the process is complete. Silence, then softly. A hotel for how long? Until the divorce is finalized. More silence, and then, you can't just leave. I didn't leave, Lauren, I said quietly. You left. You left 6 months ago. It just took me a while to notice. I ended the call. She called back 17 times. I did not answer. She sent a series of text messages that arrived in rapid succession. Please, we can fix this. I don't know what you think is happening, but you're wrong. Ryan, I love you. Please come home. Please just talk to me, I forwarded. Every message to Monica with a single note. She is attempting to control the narrative. Monica replied within minutes. Perfect. Every word is evidence. Part 8, the meeting. Our first formal meeting with the attorneys took place the following week. Lauren's lawyer was a man named Brad Simmons, polished suit, strong cologne, the practiced confidence of a man who believes volume and posture can substitute for substance. He opened firmly. My client is willing to consider reconciliation, he announced. She believes this situation stems from a misunderstanding that could be addressed through professional counseling. Monica did not look up from her notepad. Your client has been engaged in an extramarital affair lasting approximately 6 months, she said calmly. There is no misunderstanding. Brad's smile shifted slightly. That is an extremely serious allegation. What evidence precisely does your client have to support it? Monica reached across the table and placed a folder in front of him. I watched Brad Simmons open that folder. I watched his eyes move across the first page, then the second. Then the photographs, the timestamps, the location data, the screenshots of the emails and the text messages, all of it arranged in clean, chronological order by a woman who had built a career out of leaving nothing to chance. His expression changed. Across the table, Lauren's face had gone completely white. How did you? It doesn't matter how, Monica said pleasantly. What matters is that it is all documented, thoroughly. Brad closed the folder. He took a measured breath. This doesn't alter the framework of asset division. Correct, Monica agreed. However, it does eliminate your client's eligibility for spousal support. North Carolina law gives courts the authority to deny alimony to a spouse who has committed adultery. Given the scope of the documented evidence, we will be filing a formal request that your client's alimony claim be dismissed entirely. Lauren's head came up sharply. What, you can't? He can, Monica said. Brad glanced at Lauren. She looked down at the table. We'd like to request a brief recess, Brad said. Of course, Monica replied. In the hallway, while Brad conferred privately with Lauren, Monica turned to me. That went well, she said simply. Did it? I asked. I wasn't sure what I was feeling. She's cornered. Brad knows it. They will shift to negotiation now. What do they have to negotiate with? Monica looked at me steadily. Desperation, she said. And one more thing, are you familiar with alienation of affection? I wasn't. She explained it to me, a civil claim, recognized under North Carolina law, which allows a spouse to sue a third party for deliberately interfering in a marriage. It was rare. It was legally complex. But in cases with substantial documented evidence, it was entirely viable. You could file against Trevor Hastings directly, she said. I thought about Trevor, his LinkedIn profile, his expensive apartment, his golden retriever named Maverick, the photograph from the rooftop restaurant 3 months ago, the way he had answered the phone that morning in my garage. Hey, baby, you forget something. How much are we talking about? I asked. It depends entirely on the jury. I have seen awards in the 6 figures. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Let's file, I said. Part 9, TREVOR. We filed the alienation of affection lawsuit 3 days later. Trevor was served at his office, in front of colleagues, in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. 2 hours after the papers reached him, my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Ryan Mitchell. This is Trevor Hastings. His voice was tight, controlled, barely. We need to have a conversation. We really don't, I said. You cannot sue me for this. This is insane. This doesn't happen. It's entirely legal, I said, and I have an excellent attorney. This is going to destroy me professionally. You have no idea what this does to someone's reputation. You should have considered that, I said, before you spent 6 months with my wife. He sputtered, and then in a voice that shifted, quieter, defensive, almost disbelieving, he said, She told me you two were already separated. I went completely still. What did you say? She told me your marriage was effectively over, that the divorce was just a formality, that it was only a matter of paperwork and timing. She said that when we first started seeing each other, 6 months ago. She said you and she had already agreed to go your separate ways. 6 months ago, when I thought our marriage was ordinary and intact, when I was planning to extend our patio before winter, when I was asking her what she wanted for dinner and believing every answer she gave me. We were not separated, I said quietly. I had no idea she was involved with anyone. I did not know your name until 3 weeks ago. Silence. Then in a completely different tone, she lied to me. Yes, I said, she did. Welcome to the experience. I ended the call. The following day, Trevor's attorney contacted Monica. He wanted to settle the lawsuit out of court. He's offering $50,000, Monica told me. Counter with $150,000, I said. She raised an eyebrow. You're certain? He earns a good income. He made a choice that cost me 9 years of my life. Yes, I'm certain. She made the call. We settled at $100,000 to be paid in structured installments over 2 years. As a condition of the settlement, Trevor agreed to cease all contact with Lauren permanently. When Monica called to tell me the settlement had been accepted, I sat with the news for a long time. I waited for victory to arrive, for satisfaction, for some flood of vindication. Instead, I felt something far simpler and honestly far more welcome. I felt tired. Tired in the particular way of a person who has been carrying something heavy for a very long time and has finally, carefully set it down. Part 10, The End and the Beginning. The divorce was finalized 8 weeks later. Lauren was awarded the house. She had contributed more to the original down payment, and I had no desire to fight over the walls and the floors and the garden that now held memories I wanted to leave behind. I kept my truck, my tools, my retirement savings, and my freedom. No alimony. No ongoing financial connection. A clean separation. At the final hearing, as we were preparing to leave, Lauren approached me. She stood close enough that I could see the tiredness in her face, the absence of whatever brightness she'd carried when she was deceiving me. Ryan, she said quietly, I am truly sorry. I never meant for it to go the way it did. I looked at her for a long moment. Do you know what the hardest part of all of this was? I asked. It wasn't discovering that you had been seeing someone else. People fall out of love. That happens. What I cannot forgive, what I may never fully understand, is that you let me believe everything was perfectly fine while you were quietly planning your exit. You watched me build our future and you said nothing. You made me feel like I was imagining things when my instincts were telling me the truth. You made me doubt myself. Her eyes filled with tears. You could have told me, I said. You could have said you were unhappy. We could have gone to counseling. We could have made an honest attempt to repair things, or we could have ended it with some degree of dignity. You chose neither of those paths. You chose the easy way out, the coward's way. She flinched. I turned and walked out of the courtroom, through the heavy doors and into the afternoon sunlight, and I didn't look back. Epilogue 6 months later. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I am living in a small apartment in Noda, the arts neighborhood just north of Charlotte's Center. It is not large, 1 bedroom, a narrow galley kitchen, a balcony just wide enough for a single chair and a cup of coffee at sunrise, but it is entirely mine. I chose the furniture myself. I hung the pictures I actually wanted on the walls. I set up a small workshop in the storage unit downstairs, where I go on Saturday mornings and build things with my hands and listen to music as loud as I want. I started running again. I joined a gym. I called old friends I had let drift during the years when my whole world had quietly contracted around a marriage I was trying to hold together without knowing it was already gone. I went to college friends' birthday dinner and laughed, genuinely, freely laughed, for the first time in longer than I could honestly remember. I ran into Trevor once at a coffee shop near my office downtown. We saw each other across the room. He looked away first. I ordered my coffee and went about my morning. The $100,000 he was paying me said everything that needed to be said. I have not spoken to Lauren since the final hearing. Word reached me through mutual acquaintances that she and Trevor had parted ways approximately 2 months after our divorce was finalized. It appears that the foundation of a relationship built entirely on secrecy and deception does not hold particularly well once the original reason for the secrecy disappears. This surprised exactly no one. People occasionally ask me whether I wish I had done things differently, whether I should have confronted Lauren sooner, whether I should have fought to save the marriage, and my answer every time is no. Not because I am bitter, I don't think I am, not anymore, but because the marriage I believed I was fighting for did not exist. The Lauren I had loved, the honest and warm woman I had chosen at a summer barbecue 9 years ago, had already made her choices long before I understood what those choices were. The person who lived in my house for those final months, who kissed my cheek at the door and lied to my face without hesitation, was not someone I could have saved a marriage with, no matter how hard I tried. What I do regret, genuinely, is the time I spent second-guessing myself. The nights I told myself I was being paranoid, the mornings I swallowed my instincts and chose the easier comfort of not knowing. I gave trust freely to someone who had stopped deserving it. That is something I have had to sit with. There is one moment that returns to me sometimes, usually in the quiet hours. 11:47 at night. The way she reached for that phone before the first ring had even finished. The way she said wrong number without a single beat of hesitation. The ease of it, the fluency of the lie, that was the moment, not the photographs, not the emails, not the lawyer's office or the courtroom or the settlement agreement. That single moment in the dark when she looked at me and lied without blinking, that was when I knew in the deepest, most certain part of myself that she was already gone, that she had been gone for a long time, and that I was the last person to find out. If you are watching this right now and something feels off in your relationship, if there is a quiet voice somewhere in the back of your mind telling you that something is not right, please trust it. You are not crazy. You are not paranoid. You are not overreacting. That voice is yours and it is trying to protect you. You deserve a partner who comes home to you, not someone who comes home from someone else. You deserve honesty, even when it is difficult. You deserve the chance to make real choices based on real truth. I am 38 years old. I am divorced. I live in a one-bedroom apartment and I drive a truck with 150,000 miles on it. And I am, genuinely, quietly, completely happier than I have been in years. Because I am not pretending anymore. I am not pouring my energy into a future that only one of us was building. Every morning I wake up in a life that is fully, honestly mine. And that, it turns out, is worth more than any marriage built on a lie. If this story reached you, if it touched something real, leave a comment and write, "Trust your gut." Because that's really what this is about. Not betrayal, not revenge, not legal settlements. It's about that quiet inner voice we so often ignore because the truth it's telling us is too hard to face. If you have ever been lied to by someone you loved, if you have ever felt crazy for noticing something no one else could see, if you have ever had to choose between the comfort of not knowing and the freedom of the truth, this story is for you. Hit subscribe for more real, honest stories about the moments that change everything. Hit the bell so you never miss a new one, and share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is also the thing that finally sets you free. And sometimes wrong number turns out to be exactly the right call, just not the one they meant to make. What do you think Ryan should have done differently, if anything? And have you ever trusted your gut when everything around you told you not to? Write your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one.